Welcome to First Sleep Aid, calm stories to help you unwind, learn, and fall asleep. From true crime to curious facts and thoughtful ideas, always softly spoken. Subscribe now and take a deep breath. You're in good hands.
Imagine a place where trust is just the unspoken currency.
Yeah.
Where neighbors leave their doors unlocked, kids play freely in these quiet, sun-dappled streets. Now imagine that peace completely shattered. An unimaginable act, a child murdered, and the killer, hidden in plain sight. Their shadow just stretching on for decades, poisoning an entire community.
It's a chilling scenario, isn't it? Almost unthinkable. A betrayal of, well, the very idea of community life.
Exactly.
And that kind of rupture, that betrayal, is precisely what we're delving into today. It's a case that echoes with these profound, lingering questions about truth and about justice.
Absolutely. Today we're taking a deep dive into one of France's most enduring, most perplexing mysteries.
Yeah.
The Gregory Villemin case.
Right.
And this isn't just, the story of a crime. It's really a searing look at a community ripped apart, a family's agonizing, decades-long search for justice.
Decades.
And how a single anonymous voice, they called him the Crow, casts the shadow so long and so dark it still refuses to fade almost 40 years later.
Our mission, then, in this deep dive is to really unpack the intricate layers of this case. We'll journey from those chilling, just heartbreaking events of October 1984 through the fraught, often disastrous investigations that followed, the public spectacle it became, all the tragic turns it took, right up to the unresolved echoes we still hear today.
We're not just looking at the facts, are we?
No, not at all. We're exploring the immense human impact, the systemic challenges that really came to light within the French justice system because of this, and the profound questions this mystery keeps raising about justice, truth, memory itself. It's a deeply complex and heartbreaking story, one that genuinely shaped a nation's understanding of crime and its aftermath.
What stands out to you as we start this journey into this unquiet valley, even before we dive into the specifics? For me, it's that sense of lost innocence, not just for the child, Gregory, but for the whole community. It feels like a collective innocence was just stolen.
That's precisely it. What strikes me is how one single, unspeakably awful act committed in such a tight-knit place can utterly transform it.
Right.
It's how the unknown, the not knowing, the lack of clear answers can just erode certainty and trust. Suddenly, every familiar face is a potential suspect. Every silence feels like an accusation. This case really shows how the unresolved, that constant haunting by a phantom, becomes its own kind of torment, a continuous sort of low-level hum of dread that just seeps into every part of life. It's not just about the crime, it's about the lingering injury of an open wound.
That injury, that torment, it really began on just an ordinary afternoon in a place that seemed anything but extraordinary. Let's go back. October 16th, 1984.
Okay.
The village is La Panne-sur-Vologne, quietly nestled in these green rolling valleys of the Vosges Mountains, eastern France. It's autumn. The leaves are turning, golds and rust.
Beautiful.
The Vologne River nearby runs cold and fast. You can almost smell the wet stone, the decaying leaves. It sounds idyllic, doesn't it? A picture of perfect tranquility.
It really paints that picture, doesn't it? Serene, almost pastoral French rural life. And you have 4-year-old Gregory Villemin playing outside his family's, well, modest home, a totally familiar, everyday scene in a village like this. His mother, Christine, is inside, probably just doing daily chores, can see him through the kitchen window. In these small communities, the air feels safe, life is predictable, almost unchanging.
Right.
Kids know every bend in the road, every hedge, neighbors wave without a second thought. Danger in a place like La Panne, it would have felt, well, absurd, like something that only happens far away in big cities.
And then the absurdity becomes this terrifying, immediate reality. Around 5 p.m., Christine glances outside.
Yeah.
And that little figure in the bright blue anorak is gone.
Just gone.
At first, there's no immediate panic. Maybe he's chasing a ball around the corner, popped over to a cousin's house nearby. Kids do that in places like this.
Of course.
But those calm minutes start to stretch into agonizing ones. She calls his name. Her voice echoes in the chill air. No answer. That everyday stillness, so comforting moments before, suddenly feels heavy, oppressive.
You feel that shift, don't you? That mother's instinct. From just vague curiosity to undeniable fear, it takes hold so fast.
And the light itself starts to turn against them.
Yeah.
October dusk in rural France, it comes quickly, paints the sky these muted colors, then transforms the fields into something more secretive, watchful, almost menacing.
Menacing. That's a good word. By the time Christine calls her husband, Jean-Marie, at work, and he starts that drive home, a drive now just filled with escalating dread, something much darker than just a missing child scare is clearly underway. The natural world, usually a comforting, suddenly feels like it's part of the terror.
And then came the first chilling confirmation. 5:37 p.m., the phone rings at Jean-Marie's workplace. You can picture him answering, right?
Yeah.
Expecting a routine call.
Yeah, work stuff.
But instead, he hears this voice. Low, almost unnervingly calm, described later as unmistakably familiar in its cruelty.
Familiar. That's chilling. Not a random voice. Someone who knew him, knew his pain.
And the message is concise, brutal, delivered with his detached malice. You will not see your son again. I have taken my revenge.
Oh my God.
The call is incredibly brief. The line goes dead, leaving Jean-Marie grappling with those horrifying words miles from home before he even gets to Christine.
It wasn't just a threat then. It was a cold declaration, an act already committed. The timing, the message. It points to something carefully planned, not impulsive. That's critical.
When Jean-Marie finally gets home, the scene is already chaotic. Christine's called the gendarmes, the local police. Neighbors are gathering, faces etched with concern, growing dread, forming search parties, flashlights cutting through the deepening twilight.
And amidst all that confusion, a second blow lands, a sinister confirmation of the call. In the family's mailbox, they find a letter.
Right.
The words are almost violently cut into the paper, leaving these tangible indentations, like they were written with intense pressure.
And the message. Equally cruel. Purely meant to inflict pain. I hope you die of grief. Your boss money will not bring your son back. That's my revenge, you poor bastard.
It's just pure evil.
It's signed with chilling anonymity. Le Corbeau, the crow.
The crow?
The handwriting itself is described as jagged, aggressive. A style so distinctive it feels less like ink on paper and more like a voice made visible. A graphic representation of the tormentor's malice. The sheer force used. It spoke volumes about the writer's rage.
A voice in ink.
That's powerful. And this wasn't the first time, was it, the family had heard from the crow before?
No, that's the thing. The crow had haunted this family for months. Anonymous threats that had already created this atmosphere of low-grade fear, suspicion.
Right.
But now, these words carried, as it was put, the finality of an act already committed. It wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a horrifying pronouncement. A deed done. Elevating the harassment to ultimate violence.
Exactly, and the horror only deepened as night truly fell across the valley. Police combing the riverbanks with flashlights, beams piercing the churning black surface of the Vologne River. This river, usually a place for recreation, kids skimming stones, anglers waiting patiently, it becomes this focal point of dread. And in flood season, its currents can be dangerous, swift, deceptively powerful. And that night, it was in full, menacing force.
That night, the river's sound was different too. Not the usual gentle murmur, but a deep, guttural roar, swollen with rain, a sense of doom. The gendarmes working tensely, faces grim, knowing every hour dimmed the chance of finding a child alive. The air must have been thick with fear.
And the search ended in the grimmest way possible. Just before full darkness, around 9 p.m., two gendarmes waiting along the banks spotted something pale beneath the surface. A small human form caught against roots.
Oh, no.
One officer steps into the icy water, lifts the body free. It was Gregory, still in his blue anorak. The woolen hat slipped, covering part of his face, his wrists and ankles bound with nylon rope. Yes. Not hastily, but deliberately. Tight, neat knots. Almost perverse attention to detail. No other visible wounds on his tiny frame.
They placed him gently on the damp grass, a blanket over him. Though nothing could hide that stillness, the finality. His parents, understandably, were kept away. In the dim flashlight beams, the villagers stood silent, each grappling with that terrifying, insidious realization. The killer had to be one of them. Someone from their own tight-knit community.
Not a stranger.
No. It's such a fundamental betrayal. In small rural communities like La Ponge, trust is the foundation. Doors unlocked. Kids left with neighbors, help assumed.
And this killing by someone from within that circle wasn't just a crime. It was a complete rupture in the social fabric. A betrayal casting this long shadow of suspicion on everyone, turning neighbors into potential suspects overnight.
Yeah.
As police secured the riverbank, those anonymous letters took on a new, chilling weight. They weren't just unnerving anymore. They became the tangible voice of the killer. A voice that knew the family intimately, knew their deepest pain.
And the Vologne just rushed on into the night, carrying away the last light and maybe the first clues to a mystery that would haunt France for decades, becoming a national obsession. That breakdown of trust right from the start, It's critical to understanding the lasting damage.
The Vologne itself, it seems deceptive, doesn't it? Not particularly wide, but swift, uneven bed, hidden snags. And on October 16th, 1984, that cold current was swollen with rain. Treacherous.
Right.
The fact Gregory's body was found caught against roots with minimal marks, it immediately raised questions. Drowned there, or placed there after being killed somewhere else.
And the autopsy the next day in Nancy,
Right.
you called it a forensic tragedy.
It was a series of critical omissions that would plague the investigation for decades. The pathologist noted water in the lungs drowning, yes.
Yeah.
But crucially, failed to determine where it happened.
In the river.
Yeah.
Or somewhere else first.
Exactly. That distinction was vital. Plus, no toxicology screen for drugs or sedatives, couldn't tell if he'd been incapacitated, and no precise time of death estimate either. Critical for alibis, narrowing suspects.
And then the body was released quickly for burial. Almost too quickly for a murder investigation.
Yes. And later, these omissions became defining shadows, gaps in the medical records so large they could never be filled. Time is an enemy in murder cases, sure, but here, haste, maybe a lack of thoroughness, became the greater danger. Not having those basic forensic facts crippled the investigation from the outset. It really underscores how initial missteps can just irrevocably damage the path to justice.
And it wasn't just the forensics. The investigation itself was flawed from the start.
From the very first hours, yes. It suffered under its own contradictions, internal conflicts. You had two entities, the local gendarmerie and the regional police, both claiming jurisdiction.
Rivalry.
Immediately, creating mistrust, competition instead of cooperation.
Yeah.
Files weren't fully shared. Leads went unpursued if they didn't fit one force's theory. It was just chaos. A fragmented approach when unity was absolutely essential.
And the magistrate put in charge.
Jean-Michel Lambert, 32 years old. Brilliant in law, apparently, but totally inexperienced in homicide cases, especially one this huge. He approached it with ambition, maybe, but also caution.
Okay.
But disastrously, he also developed this unusual, almost naive openness with the press, granting interviews, allowing photos of evidence, hinting at directions or even suspects before anything was firmly established.
So you can just imagine how the media reacted to that.
Oh, they seized it, with a hunger that never really stopped. France's evening news had grainy footage of the riverbank. Headlines screamed, "Le Petit Gregory." He became less a lost child, more a national symbol of destroyed innocence, a figure for public fear and outrage.
And the letters from the Crow.
Front page news. The jagged handwriting reproduced for everyone to scrutinize. It was almost like inviting the public into the investigation, making them participants in the tragedy.
So the coverage wasn't just reporting, it was shaping the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. Within days, strangers across France debated the guilt of people they'd never met, dissecting every rumor. It became a national obsession, a public spectacle. Lines blurred between fact and speculation, often irrevocably. This case wasn't just in the news, it was shaped by it. A stark lesson in how media obsession can hijack justice, turn tragedy into melodrama, and corrupt the pursuit of truth.
And fueling all this was the Crow's shadow, which wasn't new, as you said.
No, the Villemin family had been living under the Crow's gaze for over a year before Gregory's murder. The letters were filled with insults, curses, and remarkably private knowledge.
Like what?
Jean-Marie's car, the layout of their house, his employer. The tone was always intensely personal, never random, strongly suggesting someone who knew them intimately, their routines, their family, their tensions.
So not random threats. An intimate campaign of psychological warfare.
And it wasn't just letters. No, sometimes phone calls too. Short, venomous bursts. A raspy voice, pitch deliberately altered, hard to tell the gender. Police tapped the lines, installed recorders, but the Crow was careful. Always public booths, voice disguised, timing unpredictable, almost untouchable, adding to the torment.
And after the murder, these letters and calls, previously harassment, they became confessions.
They were seen that way, yes. But handwriting analysis, while persuasive sometimes, is far from infallible. That would soon complicate things massively, leading to misdirection, accusations. It shows the challenge when the perpetrator is actively trying to obscure their identity, manipulate things. The constant intrusion created this overwhelming dread for the family.
And the effect on Lepange itself, the village.
Visibly changed in the weeks after the funeral. The idyll shattered. Neighbors who once chatted freely now spoke in hurried passing, eyes darting, suspicion clouding expressions. Doors never locked or bolted, every conversation shadowed by that unspoken question. Could it be you? Could you be the Crow?
Terrifying.
The gendarmes did endless interviews. But the investigation had no clear focus, no solid lead. Suspicions fell broadly distant acquaintances, then chillingly, family members, work colleagues. The river was dragged again, nothing new. By late autumn, shock hardened into this corrosive fear-suspicion as a constant grinding undercurrent.
And the crow wasn't silent.
No. In the stillness of winter, another letter arrived. Sharp handwriting, cruel words. The killer, it seemed, was still watching, still taunting, delighting in the chaos and fear they'd unleashed. This sustained psychological torment turned the whole community inward, every interaction fraught with potential betrayal.
So these anonymous threats had been going on for a long time, a psychological siege.
Yes, for at least 19 months before Gregory's death. Almost 2 years of insidious intimidation. Some letters to Jean-Marie, some to Christine, even to extended family, weaving this wide net of fear.
And the handwriting was distinctive.
Unmistakable. Blocky capitals, written with intense pressure, ink sometimes bleeding through. Crude, yet deliberate. Almost like they wanted to appear uneducated, but ensure every letter wounded with precision. And crucially, they always had deeply personal details. Too many to be coincidence, pointing directly to intimate knowledge of the family's private life, their disputes.
Not just general threats, then. Targeted.
Deeply targeted, almost surgical. One letter mocked Jean-Marie's promotion, saying he'd risen too high for his boots, pointing to professional jealousy. Another accused him of arrogance towards relatives, hinting at deep-seated family jealousies, maybe over inheritance, social standing, allusions to private quarrels, specific family gatherings, even the land of their home. Details only someone very, very close would know. Someone part of their daily fabric.
And the phone calls.
Equally disturbing. Hoarse, strained voice. Short, venomous bursts. You will see, I will get you, or I will smash your family. Never stayed on long enough for a trace. Police thought the voice was deliberately disguised, rasping whisper, gender hard to tell, accent flattened, elusive.
It must have created constant fear.
A psychological siege, exactly. Seeing danger everywhere. Shadows, unfamiliar cars, footsteps. But the most terrifying part, realizing the threat wasn't an outsider. It was unmistakably someone close, someone in their trusted circle. The impact of that constant, intimate threat, it just eroded their security from the inside out.
That intimacy, the crow's knowledge, it should have narrowed the suspects, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying it almost did the opposite.
In theory, yes. In practice, it widens suspicion to include much of the extended family. In rural France, especially these tight valleys, the family tree is, well, it's belonging, but also often a tangled lattice of resentments.
Right.
Cousins work together, uncles and nephews live nearby. Old rivalries over land or perceived slights can fester for generations.
And Jean-Marie's position, his promotion.
Respected at the factory, yes. Admired for leadership, but that promotion had not been universally celebrated. For some relatives, it maybe sharpened feelings of inferiority, exclusion, even economic jealousy.
And the crow mentioned his boss money and pride.
Frequently, in the months before the murder, hitting on those perceived vulnerabilities, resentments. So when police started looking inward at the family's complex dynamics, one name slowly emerged. Bernard Laroche.
Laroche, a cousin by marriage, described as mild, shy.
Generally, yes. Outwardly seemed incapable of such violence. But he lived very near the Villemins, knew their routines, and importantly, fit the profile of someone who might harbor silent grudges, someone who could be the author of those insidious threats.
And the case seemed to turn in November '84, just a month after the murder.
Yes, with Muriel Bull, Laroche's 15-year-old sister-in-law. She told police she'd seen him with Gregory on the day of the murder.
Wow, eyewitness testimony.
Her account was chillingly precise. Claimed Laroche picked the boy up, drove towards the river, returned without him. It was the first direct link.
So he was arrested.
Swiftly. Charged with kidnapping and murder. In the village, there was relief mixed with disbelief, shock. If Laroche was guilty, the crow's identity seemed resolved. Maybe healing could begin, but, well, tragically, that story wouldn't hold, leading to more anguish, more division.
And this is where it starts to unravel again.
Truly unravels, a stark reminder of how fragile early evidence can be. Within mere days of his arrest, Muriel Bull retracted her statement.
Retracted it, why?
Claimed police pressure, intimidation, pointing to her age only 15, living under the influence of adults. Later, she'd steadfastly insist that original testimony was false, a product of fear and confusion, not truth, and she maintains that to this day.
So without her testimony.
The case against Laroche was paper-thin. Handwriting experts couldn't definitively link him to the Crow letters, no physical evidence tying him to the crime. February 4th, 1985, Bernard LaRoche was released.
How did people react?
For the Villemins, it felt like a profound betrayal of justice, reopening that raw wound. For the LaRoche family, the arrest was a crushing humiliation, leaving indelible scars. And the village. Divisions deepened, some convinced of his innocence, others certain he was guilty. Suspicion became like a slow poison, infecting relationships, fracturing the community into irreconcilable factions.
And the crow. What happened with the letters?
As if to mock them all, after LaRoche's release, the communications continued, bolder, more frequent, the tone even more taunting, like the killer felt untouchable, emboldened by the justice system's failures. One letter famously mocked the police. "You will never find me. I am too clever for you."
Just unbelievable.
The very public nature of the case, the media spotlight, it turned these messages into a cruel performance. Every new letter reported, dissected on TV, whispered about everywhere. The Crow wasn't just hiding, they were performing their invisibility, reveling in the chaos, the torment, playing a macabre game with the whole nation. By early '85, the investigation was something bigger than just a crime. It was a family feud laid bare. A brutal test of the French justice system, and a chilling stage for the Crow to play their role, tormentor, phantom, and narrator of their own heinous crime, dictating the narrative from the shadows.
The winter in the Vosges. It's long, heavy. By March 1985, snow still clinging in places, that biting chill in the air. For 5 agonizing months, Jean-Marie Villemin had lived with this conviction, not just belief, but deep, unshakable conviction that Bernard LaRoche killed his son and walked free. A miscarriage of justice eating at his soul.
In those quiet hours, LaRoche's name must have become this gravitational force in his mind, the focus of all his grief, his rage. Muriel Boll's retraction felt like a manipulation of justice he couldn't stand. Every day, driving past LaRoche's house, seeing him living a seemingly normal life, free while his son was dead, it must have been unbearable torment, a constant reminder of his loss and the system's perceived failure, the simmering rage, the sense of abandonment it built to a tragic breaking point.
And so, March 29th. An act of desperate vigilante justice. Jean-Marie took matters into his own hands.
He did. Took a loaded hunting rifle, waited near LaRoche's home, watched. When Bernard LaRoche stepped outside for work, carrying his briefcase unsuspecting, Jean-Marie raised the gun. From just a few meters away, fired once into LaRoche's chest. The shot echoed. LaRoche fell immediately, died before help could arrive.
And Jean-Marie
didn't run, waited for the gendarmes, told them with chilling calm, "I did what I had to do." No triumph, just flat, grim finality. A man who believed justice had abandoned him, forced to meet it out himself.
What happened to him?
Charged with murder, sentenced to 5 years, served about 2.5. Public image shifted profoundly. To some, still a grieving father driven to desperation. To others, he'd committed an unpardonable act, further muddying the waters, destroying any chance of a clean legal resolution for Gregory's murder.
Right.
Tragic irony. Seeking to right a wrong, he created another equally complex one.
While Jean-Marie's revenge was explosive violence, Christine's ordeal was different. Slow, agonizing suffocation. A psychological crucifixion.
Yes. By mid-1985, the investigation, desperate after the LaRoche debacle, tragically, almost inexplicably, turned towards her.
Towards the mother.
Yes. Fresh handwriting analysis, always subjective, suggested Christine could be the Crow. For some investigators, desperate, this leap wasn't dismissed, who had greater access to the family's private life, the intimate details, than the mother.
It sounds like grasping at straws.
The theory circulated, gaining traction in parts of the press and public. Christine, maybe in jealousy or rage, killed her son to punish Jean-Marie. It was dramatic, sensational. The media seized it not because it was proven, but because it made irresistible headlines.
Right. The ultimate twist.
In a case already full of family tension, betrayal, the mother, as killer, was shocking. It fed public fascination, outrage.
So she was arrested.
July 5th, 1985. Christine, visibly pregnant with twins, arrested at home. The image of her led away in handcuffs, face pale, blank with shock. It became one of the defining, haunting photos of the case, etched into national memory, conveying profound injustice for many.
What did she do?
Immediately began an 11-day hunger strike, refusing food, speaking only to declare her absolute innocence, a desperate plea. Tragically, in August, she miscarried one of the twins.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Devastating. For her supporters, it was proof the state's treatment was not just unjust, but cruel. Compounding her grief, months turned into years. Her life became this harrowing cycle. Courtrooms, media ambushes, private, crushing grief. Lost one son, accused of his murder, enduring the loss of another child. Maintained her innocence unwaveringly.
And was she eventually cleared?
Finally, yes, February 1993, after years of torment, cleared entirely, the court declared an total absence of charges, a legal recognition of no evidence, complete exoneration.
But the damage was done.
Even that full clearance couldn't erase the years of suspicion, public accusation, the indelible stain. In many eyes, the shadow of doubt had done its irreversible, irreparable work.
So by the early 90s, the Villemin affair wasn't just a murder case anymore.
No, it had become this sprawling, tragic tapestry. Unsolved crime, vigilante justice, media spectacle, profound judicial mismanagement. The original crime, still hauntingly unsolved. The Crow's letters stopped, but their echo lingered, a chilling reminder of the phantom tormentor unpunished.
And Jean-Marie killing LaRoche. That really closed doors, didn't it?
In effect, yes. Destroyed any possibility of a clean resolution for Gregory's murder. Key witnesses dead or testimony tainted. Family relationships ruined by animosity, mistrust. Original forensic evidence compromised by early errors. Time.
And the community.
In the Vosges Valley, the Villemin's raw grief was matched by the crushing fatigue of a community living under a microscope for almost a decade. Private sorrows made public spectacle. But the story, this profound tragedy, wouldn't die. It was only sleeping, waiting for science, new investigators, and for the Crow's shadow to darken the headlines once again. A somber reminder of how flawed investigations and missteps can prevent closure, turning a crime into an enduring national wound.
Indeed, the case was far from over. By 2000, 16 years had passed. Justice system evolved, forensic science advanced significantly, DNA evidence.
Rice, the big hope, where once they relied on subjective handwriting, shaky testimony, now there was this powerful promise of DNA. It felt like a crucial chance to break the stalemate, find a definitive answer.
So they went back to the Crow letters.
Carefully retrieved them from archives, yellowed, brittle, handled with utmost care. Technicians painstakingly swabbed stamps, flaps for saliva, hoping for that genetic fingerprint. Delicate work trying to extract DNA without destroying the artifact or contaminating it further.
The anticipation must have been huge.
Immense, a collective holding of breath. But weeks later, results. Inconclusive. Time, moisture, handling over the years had degraded the samples. What little DNA was found was partial, contaminated, inadmissible. Another hope dash, another dead end.
But they tried again.
8 years later, 2008, case reopened again. Persistent public pressure, the Villemins' unwavering quest. This time focused on physical evidence from the crime scene. The ropes, the hat, the clothes.
And the results?
Again, only fragments, hints of profiles. Nothing definitive, nothing to break the case open.
Each reopening, each glimmer of hope, followed by collapse. It must have been exhausting for the family.
Profoundly exhausting. Decades enduring not just grief, but these relentless cycles of anticipation and bitter disappointment. Truth remained tantalizingly close, only to slip away again, time after time. That cycle is a hallmark of these protracted cold cases, a unique torment for victims' families.
And then, dramatically, 2017, 33 years later, the case explodes back into headlines.
Seemingly out of nowhere, acting on newly compiled circumstantial evidence, phone records, timeline analysis, fresh interpretations of old statements, investigators arrested 3 people. Jacqueline and Marcel, Jacob Gregory's great-aunt and great-uncle, and surprisingly, Muriel Bull, the teenager whose retracted testimony implicated LaRoche years ago.
Muriel Bull again. What was the new theory?
Stark and chilling. A collective act of revenge by extended family members, rooted in a long-running feud with Jean-Marie, maybe jealousy over his success, perceived arrogance. The Crow letters, they argued, were part of a sustained harassment campaign culminating in murder.
It seemed like maybe finally.
For a moment, yes, like the circle might finally close. Answers within grasp, a grand family conspiracy unveiled. Once again, the evidence proved thin, largely reliant on decades-old, unreliable recollections, disputed timelines, controversial handwriting analyses. Within mere weeks, the suspects were released.
Back into the fog.
Exactly. Renewed hopes dashed. Public and family reeling. And tragically, that same summer, another devastating blow. Judge Jean-Michel Lambert, the original investigating magistrate from '84, who handled the flawed initial investigation, found dead, apparent suicide.
Oh my goodness.
Police found notes expressing deep anguish over his handling of the Villemin affair, a profound admission of the burden he carried. His death tragically underscored what the case had become. Not just unsolved crime, but a ruinous, crushing weight on everyone it touched. A testament to the enduring human cost of unresolved justice.
Just heartbreaking, the ripple effect. But in 2020, the Crow's voice was resurrected. in an unexpected way.
Yes, through stylometry. A team of Swiss forensic linguists applied this sophisticated statistical analysis of writing style to all the anonymous letters.
Stylometry, how does that work?
It quantifies patterns, word choice, sentence length, grammar, punctuation habits, trying to create a unique linguistic fingerprint for the author, like DNA for biology.
Well, what did they find?
Provocative findings. The analysis pointed strongly toward Jacqueline Jacob, Gregory's great-aunt, as the likely author. Her vocabulary, syntax, habitual misspellings seemed to align closely with the Crow letters, adding a scientific layer to long-held suspicions.
What? There's always a but.
Always in this case. Stylometry isn't universally accepted in court as definitive proof. Critics argued small sample size, potential for mimicry or deliberate alteration of style. Its novelty was both strength and Achilles' heel legally. Couldn't be the final conclusive piece everyone craved.
Still, it gave the case a jolt.
A fresh jolt of relevance, yes. Forced a renewed look at old suspects with new tools. A powerful reminder that the killer's voice was still there, preserved in ink, waiting for the right key. Showed that even decades later, new science can bring fresh perspectives to seemingly intractable mysteries.
And as the 40th anniversary approaches, the case stands as what? A testament to grief and uncertainty.
Enduring grief, unrelenting uncertainty. Investigators still speak of it in the present tense. Evidence cataloged, letters locked away, ink no less sharp, message as potent as ever.
Yet the fundamental questions remain.
Exactly the same as on that devastating October evening in 1984. Who killed Gregory? Why? And why choose a method so cruel, so deliberate, leaving a family and a nation searching for answers for generations? Endlessly revisiting the same painful ground, the silence around those questions is just deafening, a vacuum pulling at the fabric of justice.
Gregory Villemin's murder isn't just a case file now. It's embedded in France's cultural memory, like a haunting melody everyone knows. Generations not even born in '84 recognize that photo. The little boy, wide eyes, woolen hat.
Over the years, countless books, documentaries, TV dramas, keeping the story alive, perpetuating the fascination. In cafes across France, the name Le Petit Gregory can still hush a conversation, a collective acknowledgement of a wound that never truly healed.
Remember, not just for cruelty, but for that collapse of trust.
Absolutely. Trust in neighbors, family, and tragically, the justice system itself. It's a national scar.
And it even spurred systemic change.
In a subtle but significant way. 2022, French government established a national cold case unit. Unprecedented. Officially, for a backlog of unsolved crimes. Unofficially, many acknowledge the Villemin affair, its enduring mystery, relentless pressure, deep societal impact helped force that change, highlighting the need for specialized, long-term investigation into complex, unresolved cases.
And through it all, the Vologne River still runs cold.
Still runs cold through the Vosges Valley. Looks like any other tranquil river to outsiders. But for those who live there, touched by this mystery, it will always be a crime scene. Not for what can still be found, but for what was lost and what's never been recovered. The truth.
Christine and Jean-Marie Villemin. 4 agonizing decades living with their son's absence. Enduring unimaginable suspicion, Jean-Marie's violence, the media siege, the erosion of hope.
And yet, somehow, they've endured each other too, finding in their shared profound grief a reason not to collapse entirely, to continue seeking answers, an enduring testament to resilience against overwhelming tragedy.
The Crow's letters locked away. Ropes, clothes, photos cataloged. Fragments of a puzzle whose image won't fully appear.
If the truth exists, it's likely not in one dramatic revelation, but somewhere quieter. Faded memory, jagged handwriting, the moment the small boy stepped beyond his mother's sight and, tragically, into history, leaving a legacy of questions.
The valley is peaceful now on the surface, quiet beauty restored, but not empty. Somewhere, in the enduring silence.
The Crow's shadow still passes overhead. A chilling reminder that some truths remain elusive, even to the most determined pursuit. This deep dive really reminds us how a single unpunished act of cruelty can ripple through decades, altering lives, shaping a nation's understanding of justice, truth, and the persistent shadows of unresolved mysteries.
So what does it mean for a society when the truth of a crime, so deeply etched into its consciousness, remains forever out of reach, leaving only echoes? And how do we ever truly heal from a wound that refuses to close?